Hello everyone, welcome back to the AWS playlist. In this video, we will talk about another important AWS service that is called S3. So my name is Mohit, you're watching DevOps Studio. Let's get started. So in this video, we will talk about S3, right? Which stands for Simple Storage Service. Okay, so there are three S, that is why it's called S3. Okay. So before we get into S3, there's one more important concept that you need to understand, and that is a blob storage, because S3 is a type of blob storage. So what is blob storage? Blob stands for binary large objects. Okay, so to understand this, let's take an example. Let's say I give you a wardrobe and I give you a shoe rack. Okay, and I ask you, where will you put the clothes? So obviously your answer will be in the wardrobe, right? And if I ask you, where will you put the shoes? So again, your answer will be in the shoe rack, right? Why? Because those storage options are more appropriate for that data, right? So similarly, on the cloud also, we have various type of data types or data structures in which we can store our data. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So you might have a relational database like rows and columns. Okay, so for that you might use a RDBMS like MySQL, Postgres, right? You can set up a database like that, or your data might be in a document format like this, like a JSON file or a XML file, right? So in that cases, you might use a document storage, right? You might also have something like this, like a key value store, right? Where you have a keys and you have data, right? But what if you are not sure what kind of data you're dealing with, or the data type itself is a mixture of a couple of things, right? Let's say it has audio files, video files, PDFs, CSVs, right? You have a bunch of data, right? So for that purpose, we have something called a blob storage. Okay, so it expects different type of data. Okay, that's why it's called a binary large object. Okay, so all the binary files you can put in this. So if someone asks you what's S3, you can simply say that it's an managed blob storage service offered by AWS. Why managed? Because all the cloud services are being managed by a third party, like in this case AWS, Amazon, right? So that is why all the services are called managed services. So now let me hop onto the console and let's quickly create a S3 bucket. So you can go click here, or you can also come to the search bar and put S3, and let's open S3. So as you can see that right now, if I do the list, then I don't have any bucket. Okay, so let's create one. Let's click on create bucket, and over here you will see that it is asking for bucket type. So actually there are two bucket types. One is the general purpose and the other one is the directory, and I will explain you what's the difference in a couple of seconds. But let's create a bucket. So let's give it a name. Let's put Mohit-test, and as soon as I do that, you will notice something interesting. So let's scroll down, let's keep everything default, and let's click on create bucket, and you will see that we have an error, right? And it says that bucket with the same name already exists. Now you might be wondering, why is that, right? Because I just shown you that we do not have any bucket, right? Then why does it say that it already exists? The reason being is that all the S3 buckets, their scope is global. Okay, they are under the global namespace. That means that someone over the internet already has a bucket called Mohit-test. Okay, so your bucket name must be unique globally. Okay, so even though it says here that we are picking US East 1 as a region, and on the top also you can see the region is US East 1, right? But still your bucket is a global thing. Okay, so always remember that. So let's pick a unique name. Let's say DevOps YT channel. I hope this one is available. Let's create, and thankfully we have a bucket of our channel name. right? So this is a simple bucket DevOps YT channel. Let's open it. So as you can see right now, it doesn't have any object. And one more thing, all the things that you put inside a bucket are called objects. So you see, objects are 0. Okay. So now let's try to upload something. Let's go to upload and click on add files. And so I will add a bunch of files. Let's select this shoe, which is an image. And let's also select this PDF. And let's also select this CSV. Okay. So I'm selecting a variety of data. Okay. Let's click on OK, then upload. So our upload is done. So let's click on close. And now you see that inside this bucket, I have 3 objects, all are of different types. So this is the advantage of a blob storage. Okay. So now there are a couple of things which we ignored while setting up the bucket. Okay. Like the properties, the permissions, the management, right? But before that, let's clear some of the important concepts which are related to S3, and these are very, very important concepts because they are very often asked in interviews as well. So S3 has something called as storage classes, which is a very important concept when it comes to S3. So there are different classes. The default one is the S3 standard. Okay. And then we have S3 standard IA. IA stands for infrequent access. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore these 3, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Okay. But I will talk about them once I cover the remaining ones. Okay. So first one is the S3 standard, which is the default one. Okay. So what does it do? The fetching time is very quick. It's in the milliseconds, and it's a general purpose bucket for frequent access. Okay. So if you want your data to be accessed very quickly, okay, then you have to use a S3 standard. Okay. But what if you have some data like old log files or something else that you do not want immediately? Okay. And you can wait a couple of milliseconds. Okay. But it will save cost. Okay. So for that, you have S3 standard IA. Again, IA means infrequent access. That means you do not need that resource frequently. Okay. So the fetching time is still in milliseconds, but it is still a bit slower than the standard one. Okay. But it is cheaper. Okay. And then we move to Glacier, instant retrieval. Again, the fetching time is milliseconds, but still it is a bit slower than the IA. And what's the benefit? It is again a bit cheaper than the IA. Then you have S3 Glacier Flexible. So now the fetching time increases from minutes to hours. Okay. And it becomes even more cheaper than S3 Deep Glacier, where the fetching time goes to hours. Okay. And it becomes very, very cheap. So as you can tell, as you move across these classes, the fetching time increases and the cost decreases. Okay. So based on your requirements, okay, you need to pick the right storage class. Okay. So now let's talk about these 3. Let's talk about number 1. Number 1 is S3 intelligent tiering. And what it will do is intelligently, it will automatically move your objects between those classes. Okay. So that you get the benefit of both worlds. Then number 2 and number 3 are reserved for the directory type S3 bucket. Okay. Because as we just saw, there are 2 types of buckets, general purpose and the directory type. Okay. So these 2 are reserved for the directory type. Okay. And what's the catch here? The catch here is the one zone. So as you can see, right, both of them has the word one zone, and it means that there is only one availability zone. As you can see, again, it's the same pattern. One is called Express. That means it will be high performance, right? You will be able to fetch the data in a single millisecond. Okay, so it's high performance. Why? Because it's under the same AZ. Okay, there are no more than one AZ. Okay, so it knows from where it needs to fetch the data. That is why it's more quick. On the other hand, you have similarly another option for IA, that is infrequent access. So again, the cost goes down, but as you can see, the fetching time increases from single digit milliseconds to milliseconds. Okay, so now let's take a look at the lifecycle policies. Okay, so what if you do not want to keep looking at your objects, right, and move them into the right classes? So for that, S3 has something called lifecycle policies. Okay, and again, this is a very important interview question, so you can take screenshots or take notes. Okay, so what are lifecycle policies? They are nothing but automation rules. Okay, so they are automation rules that will trigger either the transition of objects. Okay, so either it will move the object from one class to another, or it will just delete the object altogether. Okay, so what is the use case of this? Okay, so the use case is simple. Let's say you have some legacy log files. Okay, the log data is, let's say, 1 year old. Okay, so you do not need that log data, right? So you can set up a lifecycle policy or a rule. Okay, that rule will basically delete all the objects that are older than 365 days. Okay, so regularly it will keep on checking, and as soon as any object becomes older than 365 days, that object will be deleted. Another use case might be, let's say you realize that I only need frequent access for the first 30 days. Okay, and after that, I'm rarely fetching that file. Okay, so you can set up a rule that will automatically move your objects from the standard to the standard IA after 30 days. Okay, so that after 30 days, you can save some cost. And you can set up another rule that, hey, after 90 days, automatically move them to the glacier. Right? So this is one of the most important use cases when it comes to lifecycle policies. So the interviewer might ask you like how you can save costs when it comes to S3. So he's probably looking for this answer, for the lifecycle policies answer. Now let's also discuss the bucket types that we saw on the console. Okay, so there are a lot of things listed here, but just to keep it simple, the directory type, as I shown you, is a one zone storage class. Okay, that means there is only one availability zone. Okay, so that is why it becomes more performance oriented. Okay, there is less latency. Okay, but at the same time, it sacrifices on redundancy. Okay, and it also lacks some advanced features that I will talk about. Okay, so that is why it is not recommended for production use cases, because for production you need some sort of redundancy, right? You need some backups or replications into different AZs. Okay, so your general purpose has all those features. Okay, so you can utilize all those storage classes, and you can also take the benefit of multi-AZ deployments to make your deployments more durable and fault tolerance. So now you will understand this table even better. So as I was saying, that these two, which says one zone, these storage classes are reserved for the directory type bucket, and remaining every other class is for the general purpose bucket. So now let's take a look at the other options that we missed while setting up the bucket. So the first one is properties. So if you see in the properties, the important thing to look here is the bucket version. So let's try one thing. Let's go back to the bucket and let me upload this PDF again. Okay, let's see what happens. Let me select this PDF again and let's upload it. So it is done, and if you go back, you will see the PDF has been updated and the timestamp is also updated, because right now it's 1820. So what exactly happened here is, when I uploaded the same object, it replaced that object because the versioning is disabled. So now let's go back to properties and enable the versioning. Now let me re-upload that PDF again and let's see what happens. Okay, it is uploaded. So now you will see that the timestamp has been updated to 1821, but you also have this toggle that says show versions. Okay, and as soon as I enable it, you will see both the versions of this file, the one that was uploaded on 1820 and the new one that we just uploaded at 1821. Okay, so what's the use of this? Let's say you uploaded multiple versions of your application, version 1, 2, 3, 4, and something goes wrong with version 4. So now you can easily roll back to the previous version because we have maintained the versions using versioning. So in case of disaster recoveries, or if you want to do a rollback, you can use versioning. So let's turn on this toggle and go back to properties. And there are a lot of things. One of the thing is default encryption. So by default, it is using the AWS managed S3 keys. Okay, so this is for encryption at rest. Okay, so if you're not aware of the concept of encryption, I will make a separate video where I will explain about encryption at rest and encryption at transit. By the way, you can host your static websites on S3 as well. So we will create another video for that as well. So now let's move to the permissions, which is a very important topic. So if you see right now, as default, all the public access has been blocked. That means nobody on the internet can access this particular bucket, not even from the other AWS accounts. And you also have a bucket policy, okay, which is nothing but an IAM policy, like a JSON document. So if you have not seen that video of IAM, please go back and watch that IAM video, and you will place your bucket policies, right? For example, you have 5 developers in this account and you only want to give access to 4 developers, then you can add a bucket policy here. Let's go back to the management part. So over here you have again the lifecycle rules. So if you want to set up a rule like after 30 days automatically move my objects from standard to IA, you can set that here. So that is it for today's video. I hope you liked it, and if you liked it, do like the video and subscribe to our channel, because in the next 2-3 videos I will be putting more content about S3, small videos related to how to set up lifecycle policies and how to host a static website. Okay, so thanks for watching. Bye guys.